Russia. Starting off, I asked him if he takes the criticism and obstructionism from the left personally.
You want to protect your family, you want to protect somebody that you love, and so I think you take it personally. I think now if we took everything personally, you'd end up jumping out the window behind you. I mean, you literally couldn't, and so you have to have a thick armor, but you also have to realize that that's the nature of the beast. Unfortunately, when you become a politician, immediately 50% of the people love you and 50% of the people probably hate you. We have a very divided political system, and I think you can really change that over the next couple of years, but that's a reality of politics. So if you take it too personally, I don't think you'd sleep at night. I think you wouldn't be productive. You certainly wouldn't enjoy yourself. You'd just be a miserable person. So I think you have to let it roll off your shoulders.
You and your brother running the Trump Organization right now. How often do you speak to your father?
Yeah, I speak to my father, and I speak to him a decent amount, but we do keep perfect separation of church and state. It was something that was incredibly important to him. It's something that's incredibly important to me. And just from a practical standpoint, I mean, he's got the biggest job in the world, Maria. I mean, he's got the biggest job in the world. You see what they're talking about in terms of lowering taxes. You see what they're talking about in terms of, border security, building the wall, rebuilding our military, the amount of money that he's cutting out of, the budgets every single year, the waste he's trying to curb, et cetera. I mean, these are the biggest things in the world. These are billions and billions and trillions of dollars worth of deals, and we're a great company. But quite frankly, he's got much bigger fish to fry, and so we're back in New York, and believe me, I will always be his biggest cheerleader. But we're taking great care of the company, and he's going to take great care of this country. And it's a great combination.
Yeah.
But I miss him, honestly. I miss him. It's, he used to always send down these great little notes on a piece of paper. You see a newspaper article, hey, Eric, great job with this. This project's going to be amazing. And, you miss seeing those notes, but at the same time, you just look at the magnitude of the things that he's trying to accomplish. It's just going to better the lives of you and me and all Americans, and the next generation of Americans and everybody else, and it's incredibly special.
How have things changed for you?
Yeah, well, we have an amazing company. I mean, we've really focused on buying the best assets around the U.S. and really around the world, the best hotels, the best golf courses, commercial buildings, residential buildings, wineries, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we really have an amazing portfolio. We focus on the very high end of the market, really in the 5-star space, and it's been fantastic. And we have an amazing company, and we have, quite frankly, an amazing brand, and a brand that stands for quality and luxury and iconic properties. But it's changed. We've also, in light of politics, we've said, hey, listen, we're not going to expand anymore internationally. We're not going to do any new international projects, and that was a big piece of what we did. I mean, that's a big piece of what I did, and Don did, and Ivanka did when she was in the company, and so that's certainly a change, but it's also the right thing to do.
How do you identify what the next growth spot is?
Yeah, I think it's gut. I think it's intuition. I think there's certain leading factors that go into it, but you see a place, and you see places that are reducing taxes. They're trying to incentivize businesses to come in, and right, those are always the places that do immensely well. I mean, look at Florida. Florida is a perfect example of that. Look how well the state has done. And why have they done well? Because they have low taxes. They've got an incredible quality of life. Real estate prices weren't astronomical, meaning you could move from a state like New York into Florida. You could get a much bigger bang for the buck, et cetera, et cetera. And all of a sudden you see this growth explosion in Florida, and it was because of those factors. I mean, they were pro-business, they were they were pro quality of life, they were pro infrastructure. They did a lot of things right, and I think you're seeing that right now in a lot of markets in Texas. You certainly saw that in North Carolina and South Carolina and other states that really grew massively. And I think a lot of the states that aren't focused on those priorities, reducing taxes, fiscal responsibility, quality of life, et cetera, I think, quite frankly, they've been losing a lot of their tax base, and that's very, very sad.
How do you think about doing business globally at the same time as the president, your father, is thinking about securing borders and putting America first and the globe second?
Well, listen, I don't think 1 and 2 are contrary to one another, but I think when people abuse the system, they can be. I think the difference with us is we might do a project globally, but all the money comes back to the United States. And that's a great thing for the United States. I think you see a lot of other companies, I can name 20 off the top of my head right now, including many of the biggest companies in this nation, that will go off and they'll do a project overseas, or they'll do their business venture overseas, and then all of a sudden they're parking all their money overseas, and they're taking advantage of lower taxes and shell companies here and there. And I think that's also unacceptable. I mean, we need to make America a pro-business environment, and it hasn't been, unfortunately, for a very, very long time. And people want to invest in America. I mean, America's the safest place to invest. It's got the best rule of law. It's got so many advantages. I mean, think about it. If you are a wealthy person from overseas, where do you put your money right now? Do you put in Europe? Probably not, because it's not growing all that quickly. Do you put in the Middle East? I would argue no. Do you put it in Central and South America? Well, maybe strategically, but maybe not. Do you put it in Asia? I think a lot of those markets are probably overvalued, and I think you're seeing that all the time. So, maybe not. Where do you want to park your money? You want to park your money in the United States of America. What's the one detractor from parking your money in the U.S.? Ridiculous taxes.
So you and Donald Trump Jr. are splitting duties. Tell me how it works.
Well, Don and I are incredibly close. I mean, Don and I spend every weekend together. We work together. Our offices are right next to each other. And same with Ivanka when she's in the company. Ivanka was amazing. And the four of us had so much fun. But, we manage all the hotels that we own. We manage all the golf properties that we own. We have a lot of great commercial buildings. We have a lot of great residential buildings, wineries, retail, everything else. I mean, we have a dynamic company, but we have a lot of fun. We're always smiling. Don has 5 kids, and they'll run up and down the hallways of the company. So you have kind of the next generation. Maybe we would call it the new next generation of kids running around, and people are happy. I mean, it's just we have a great time. We work very hard. We take our jobs incredibly seriously, but as a family company, we also have a lot of fun. And it's a very special formula if you can get it right.
It's a different setup than we've ever seen before, because obviously the president came into office with a whole life. He built a company and grew it, and you and your siblings have been there. But when you go to places like Jakarta, when you go to Manila, when you go to places around the world, even places that have a large Muslim population, what kind of reaction do you get from your partners there to the president's policies?
An amazing reaction, honestly.
Good reaction.
And the reason is, America hasn't been the friend that it should be to so many countries over the last several years. I mean, look at what we've done so many times to Israel over the last decade. We haven't been to the friend to them that they deserve. They're our best ally in that region by far.
How will this company look different, do you think, in 4 years?
Yeah. Listen, I think sky's the limits for us. Sky's the limits. I mean, we're a company that has very, very low debt. We're a company that can expand in so many different fields. Hey, if we want to go out and do a residential building, we can do that. If we want to go do a golf course, we can do that. If we want to do nothing, we can do that as well. And so we have tremendous opportunity. Well,
we're in Trump Tower right now, and the most recent story was wiretapping of Russians. What do you think when you hear this stuff? What happened?
It's so ridiculous. It actually infuriates me, because I think I understand this company better than any human being in the world. And we have no projects in Russia. If we had projects in Russia, you'd see our name on those projects, right? We're not exactly bashful about hiding our name. We like having our name on our buildings, including Trump Tower that you're in, obviously right now. And it's a little bit maddening. I mean, here's a narrative, because a certain party lost an election and they needed to, try and put somebody else down, that they further and they perpetuate, and there's zero truth behind it. And it's just very, very sad. And I'd like to see that party take an inward look at themselves, and maybe the leaders of that party shouldn't be making their password to their computers password. I mean, why don't you start there? And but it's maddening. But it's all just gray noise at this point.
I also thought it was funny that your brother did tweet, "Thank you, Rachel Maddow, for telling the world my father is a wealthy man and he actually paid 25% tax rate."
Yeah, it was it's kind of. That whole thing was just amazing. He paid 25. He paid $38 million in taxes. He had
exactly $38 million or something.
$150 million worth of income that year, and paid $38 million worth of taxes. And they lined them up against Obama's taxes, and they lined them up against everybody else's taxes. And he was paying a higher tax rate, which kind of shuts down the whole argument. But it's really sad that we're in an environment where tax returns are leaked by whoever it may be. And I mean, just think about it. I mean, just think about how dangerous that is, how third world that is of a practice to happen when personal information is being put out by people for political agendas. And it's as a civilian, it's actually scary to me.
Eric, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much, Maria.